My name is Monica Gleberman, and you're listening to Silence on Set podcast. On today's podcast, we're talking to the cast of Outer Range. Outer Range centers on Royal Abbott, a rancher fighting for his land and family who discovers a phenomenon at the edge of his farm in the form of a dark void. The mysteriousness surrounding the Enigma void on the west pasture of the Abbott family ranch deepens in season 2 as Royal and his wife Cecelia struggle to keep their family together in the aftermath of their granddaughter's sudden disappearance. To start us off, here's Imogen Poots.
We'll start with the quote easy question. Are you Amy?
It's a good question, isn't it? That's where you're left on season 1, right at the end. So season 2 starts to answer that question and its potential, and it's far less in search of and far more holding the results. So that's cool.
So coming back, I feel like season 1 was a lot about consequences from Royal hiding stuff and everyone kind of being interested. And that was like a domino effect. Whereas this season's more like everyone's kind of reacting to those consequences and causing their own set of domino effect issues. So for Autumn, she is injured and she's trying to figure out, and I keep going back and forth with, does she know who she is or does she not know who she is? So how is that as an actor to play that and kind of go back and forth between the line of like, who am I? Like, and am I her? Am I not her? And how do I fit in?
I think it's really complicated to play because you don't want to inhabit a character who's constantly questioning. I think she gathers these morsels of information about who she is, and they're really rewards for her. I think it's been really, really difficult, and that's sort of the reason behind why her behavior has been so erratic, is it's torturous not to know. And there's a sense that people are withholding information from her, but also that she's not believed. That's a very isolating place to be in. So it was fun to get to play someone who is grappling with who she is in real time. And it changes the way that she looks at these individuals who she feels very connected to, but doesn't know why. But that's not to say that it clears it up. I mean, dynamic with Royal is certainly not linear anyway. So
really quickly, I want to make sure I ask that kiss last season between Autumn and Billy, and then the connection that they continue to have through this season. What was that like? Because the kiss, I was laughing because I was like, oh my God, they went in for that kiss in season 1. But their relationship is interesting and it keeps developing throughout season 2. So what was that whole filming like?
Well, it was tough in season 2 because I feel Autumn and Billy are kismet souls, and I felt I loved working with Noah Reid. I mean, I love all the cast, but I loved working with Noah so much, and us trying to do that kiss together. Like, I can't believe we kept a straight face. We had to use KY jelly. You know what I mean? Like, it was no joke. But so Autumn and Billy have a different existence in terms of how they orbit one another in season 2, and I actually found that really hard. I really missed my friend, even though I got the chance to work with Shaun Sipos loads, which was incredible. I love Shaun, but yeah, I was mourning. I was mourning the Autumn and Billy dynamic, actually.
Yeah, that was one interesting kiss inside that bank last season. This season, like I said, I think it's a little bit of consequences from the end of last season. So where is Autumn now, and what ride is she going to be on this season that you can kind of tease for fans to expect? Because the show is you just never know what's coming at you.
I think this season, Autumn she herself is grappling with potential answers and clues and trying to solve her identity. But there's an openness to her, which I think is very vulnerable, and allows her to form a quite intimate relationship with other characters, especially Cecelia and her become very close. And I think you see, as she gets closer to who she is, she's able to kind of activate her emotional core, which she's kept hidden for a long time. There's a lot of self-loathing that comes with just feeling completely untethered from other people, whereas in this season there's a more grounded sort of, she moves through the world in a way where she feels connected to things, and that has a great impact on how she operates.
Up next is Tamara Podesmki.
I feel so bad because Deputy Sheriff Joy is just out trying to do her business. She's looking around, trying to keep things safe, and then falls into the past. So what is that like as an actor to read that on the screen and go, okay, I got to make this come to a reality? How do you do that?
Yeah, well, I think you try to keep up with them as truthfully as you can, because it's not oh, I've arrived in the past. It's, hold on, where did that house go? Hold on, wait, you know what I mean? It is a slow realization, because that is not the first thing you assume when you don't recognize your surroundings. You see or heard a buffalo, like, you know what I mean? I do love the way they reveal and the way that they allow her to catch up to her surroundings, because it's not like, why would that be the answer? Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just, so that was the fun part of how long can we stretch out the questioning, the confusion. And what's really nice is how we have a few episodes to give Joy to really make sense of what just happened.
And I really enjoyed learning cultural wise what it was like, during that time period, and how to survive and what women did. And so you did a fantastic job kind of like being a current day woman, but like integrating in that, because she has that in her soul. That's her history. That's her ancestors. So it was just really interesting to watch, and you did such a great job with it. So just congratulations on that.
We had an incredible team, and from our, from Black Horse Low to Randy Redroad, one of our co-writers, to our Indigenous producers, to our Shoshone speaker, to our Indigenous background performers, with like 80 plus of them. There was so much knowledge and lived experience that, authenticity is such a important aspect to this. But when you have that many people who know these stories, who know these communities, who know the history, you just can actually focus on the story, and you're not getting caught up with the specifics, because you kind of all, know it. That was a nice thing to be entrusted with.
Well, I want to ask you quickly too, what does it feel like to be in the goo of that timeline river? And then also, what are you most excited about for fans to see with your character? Because it's so nice that she has such a fully, not that you didn't in season 1, but that we have so much more of a fully fleshed out arc for her this season. So what are you most excited about?
I'm most excited that she gets to become who she's meant to be. I think people in season 1, like, I got frustrated with her in season 1. Like, she she wasn't as grown up as she could be, and she was starting to make decisions that compromised her values. And, it's funny when you play a character and you have to have compassion for them, but I was starting to get really angry with her, and I knew that she could be a better version of herself. So I think audiences are going to, if they were feeling similar to me, where they knew Joy could be a hero, they are going to love watching her become the hero she is meant to be.
And how's that goo, by the way? Because we all want to know.
I don't know if I can give it away, but I never had to go in the goo. The goo is CGI.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah,
so that's
I think there's some parts of it. No, the goo is CGI. I never had to do it. But I love that you think it looked real.
Oh my God, it totally looks real. And then at least that way you don't have to get all gross and dirty. So
yeah. Working in New Mexico, in the cold, in the heat, in the wind, in the rain, in the lightning storms, like that environment, you don't need goo. Goo is nothing compared to filming on location in New Mexico in spring.
Up next is Shaun Sipos and Noah Reid.
So I wanted to start off with, I think we all need to know, who is Dad's favorite?
There's just no question about that. I'm gonna take that. I'm gonna take that all day, Shaun. Sorry, buddy.
I mean, you ain't got no argument for me. Fuck that guy.
Oh, it's constant back and forth. I do feel like, there's a lot of rivalry going on between Billy and Luke. I think Luke sometimes, wants some acceptance from his dad, but then at other times does stuff that he care. So, Shaun, what is that like, playing the balance between trying to find the acceptance, but also be his own kind of man?
I think it's emotional. I think it's something that probably every son grapples with at some point, unless you're really the favorite, which must be nice.
It is.
I do go downhill after I ask that one.
No, I think it's a rich place to come from. It's emotionally rich. There's a lot of it's something that is so woven throughout our society, and especially something that I think we lack now, where many, once the Industrial Revolution kind of came into play, where men were going off to factories and working and their boys were left at home, there's a divide that happens, and they're not with the dad all the time. And so getting to sort of reconcile that to some degree, whether it be through the arts or through some sort of healing at home, is a great benefit of what we do. So it was fun to go through that, and it was healing.
I know it for you. Oh, Billy. I just like in season 1, I just felt so bad. And then I was like, wait, I don't like you, but then I do like you. And I was so torn. And then I can ask about a little bit about season 2 because I am going to hold this interview. So for season 2, in the first episode, I mean, I'm happy you're around. So what is poor Billy going through? Because I mean, even not doing well in a hospital, we still got some music, we still got some weird stuff happening. So what's his arc this season?
Yeah, well, I feel like Billy at the end of season 1 has his kind of his knees taken out from under him, and he's just found, I think, a real sense of purpose with Autumn, and obviously their run as a kind of modern day Bonnie and Clyde gets cut short, and his circumstances drastically change. It's kind of a miracle that he survives, but on the other side of that survival is an inability to do anything. The most important thing for Billy, his voice, has been taken from him, and he's kind of, I think, left with this sense of a complete lack of ability to contribute, a sense of failure, that he wasn't able to finish things with Autumn, and a kind of a loss of his position as somebody with intrinsic value. So it's a lot of frustration for him as he's trying to rebuild that, a lot of desperation trying to get back to something that he had fought for and had built. And the musical element of his character has to find other ways to work its way into the story, and it does, I think, in kind of interesting, wild ways. And that's a world that I was exploring outside of the shooting of the show too, and we'll have maybe something fun to share around the drop of season 2. But yeah, it was at times quite challenging to be the bedridden character. As fun as it is to work in your cowboy pajamas, it's you see other people getting to run around and ride horses and do all kinds of wild stuff, and you're like, I got tubes in my nose. This is tough.
Well, you both did such a great job. I want to ask really quickly, because I got this asked 100 times, which I think you sort of hinted to maybe, but Noah, for you, will there be an album at some point? Because everybody was like, I will buy it. Whatever Billy's singing on that show, I want it. So is that a possibility?
It's a possibility. It's a possibility.
I feel good about it because I've interviewed you before and I see that smile. So I feel good about it. I want to ask both of you kind of like a 2-part question, which is, first, for the sci-fi element, how is it for you guys as actors to kind of take that on, make it believable, make it feel real? Because you really do feel like invested when you're watching the show. And I'm like yelling at the screen, like you really just feel completely invested. So how does it feel working with that sci-fi element? Because obviously some of the stuff is not there that they have to add in. And then the other part is, what are you most excited about? Or is there a scene that you can kind of tease that you're excited about for fans to see? Because we dissect the heck out of this show. So we're very excited for season 2.
Yeah, I think that the working with the sci-fi element is tough because you're just using your imagination and wondering if it plays. But the good thing is that everyone's experience of it is their own. So there isn't too far wrong that you can go unless you're, really sort of pantomiming it. And then for me, maybe a scene for everyone to kind of dissect and look at is when they first see Luke. I do a little dance, maybe if they can pick up some of these moves I'm doing, because I siphoned them from multiple different places.
Yeah, man. Luke's first moment is going to make Shaun a TikTok superstar. I'm just calling it right.
Like a little bit of footloose there.
Oh, it's totally wild, man. I'm really excited to be able to see it. I'm also excited for them to see me and Will Patton floating through the air like we're in the Sistine Chapel, an epic Tillerson tilt towards the end of the season that Shaun and I get to be a part of.
Here's Charles Murray.
But I want to start off with basically, you took over the helm of showrunner for the season. So what was some of your biggest kind of worries or concerns to kind of get through the storyline? Because it's so, it's so crazy. I mean, there's sci-fi, there's action, there's so many storylines you have to keep up with. So how'd you kind of helm that kind of ship, I guess, for the season?
You want to hear a crazy answer?
Of course.
I was a latchkey kid, right? And I used to watch everything. Like there was no restrictions. There were no restrictions on anything that I watched. So I would go from watching a horror movie to a Abbott and Costello comedy to a soap opera so I was built for this. So, and then watching it, watching season 1 and really truly connecting with it. My first question to the producers and Amazon was, is there one thing you want to stick to, or can we just go in a variety of directions? And they were like, it's whatever you think we should do. You tell us what you think the show should be. And so for me, it was, let's not stop going from moment to moment to moment, idea to idea, emotion to emotion. But all we have to do is really just make sure that it's cohesive in the larger arc. And so I looked forward to the challenges. The writers looked forward to the challenges, and we just had a blast because, there were certain people who loved the storyline more than another one, and they came with their A game every time. And so from that, we kind of were able to, it was my job to just make sure that we stayed true to what the larger narrative was, which was Royal and this whole, and everything else was gravy to a great meal. And so that's kind of how I looked at it. I was like, oh, this is like watching 4, 5, 6 TV shows in a day, but it's all in one show and it's all about one thing. So I didn't balk at it. I ran toward it.
Yeah. I mean, you did such a great job of keeping the tone, right? So like the tone of the switchover, I wouldn't even notice. Like, I mean, you were so on target. The chaos, I didn't think it'd get crazier than season 1. And I was like, oh, it did. But I mean, there's singing numbers that you wouldn't expect. There's floating stuff and sci-fi things and dirt eating and goo coming out of places you didn't think. So for you, was there something that you were watching it on the screen and you were like, this idea is nuts, but let's see. And then you were like, yes.
I didn't, like when Billy floats, we had an idea of what it would look like. And then Deborah Kampmeyer, the director, came in and she said, so I got this idea and I want to put them on wires and I want to, and I remember as she was pitching it to me, I was like, huh? and she like, I guess she saw my face and she like said it again. and I said, why not? Let's go for it. Because there are very few constraints on a show that deals with regular people who have to turn around and deal with huge sci-fi type thing, right? There's no ceiling to that, so to speak. And so as long as we were true to the larger narrative, we could go places that we wanted to go. And that's what I think made it thrilling to make this season.
Yeah, and I feel like that's a great representation too, right? Like if you could fly to the sky, what else can we do, right?
Let's go. If you can make it real, right? And then, since you say this is coming after, adding that song from Billy made it that much more elegant. And so it's like it lives in a space that's tonally different, but yet the song brings it back to what the show is. That's the balancing act we did the whole season.
But I just wanted to ask you, season-wise, what are you most excited about, or what are you excited for fans? Because we break down everything. I mean, I rewatched season 1 like a million times. I watched all of season 2. I already restarted it because I'm like, what'd I miss? What do you put in there that I didn't get? So what are you so excited about for fans to see?
There's a moment, and I'm going to say this, you'll get it. When Autumn shows up at the shelter. That whole moment from her getting in the gate to leaving is so amazing on so many levels to me. Storytelling, the acting, the emotion. And the great thing is, there are from my perspective, there are so many moments like that, but because we are following her as much as we're following Royal, that to me is her get ready because here I come. And I absolutely I love Imogen, first of all. But when I was on set, I was like, oh my God, this is so good. And when I watched it in the cut, I was like, get out of here. These people, the great thing, I remember, I'll say this really quickly. A director went to an actor and said, hey, I think we missed a moment. And the actor said, no, you'll see it when you watch the dailies. And there was that moment and more. That is what was going on in that scene for me, in that sequence of events, I should say.
And finally, here's Isabel Arraiza.
But I want to ask you, what has Maria's major challenges been from season 1 heading into season 2 now that she wants to get away from the chaos?
She can never leave town. It's like this force that just prevents them from like their dream. Yeah, that's her biggest challenge. But I also think there's a question about if love can conquer all. We want to root for them. And she has an ambition and this dream, and she wants to share that dream with this man that she loves. And we get to see sort of a glimpse of their now in a deeper way, sort of like how intimate and how much love there is between them. But I think once you take them out of that little bubble, how they navigate those challenges that, and those given circumstances that are bigger than life and sort of pulling right back.
It was nice too, because I feel like there's so much chaos and there's so much sci-fi, there's so many things that it was always nice to see Maria and Rhett together. Cause I feel like it kind of grounded you in a minute, and you were like, oh, this is a nice romantic moment, like, away from the chaos. So when you guys last season had crashed the car, right away I went, oh, can they not leave? Like, is there like something going on? And then when season 2 starts, you both kind of collectively make the decision because of the circumstances, to stay for now. I'll go for now. Right? That's the plan. Right. So for you, how do you kind of like approach all of that? Because your character necessarily hasn't seen a ton of the sci-fi stuff other than she just wants to leave. So how do you kind of do that as an actor? You have to like take that out, right? Because you're reading the scripts. So you kind of have to pretend that doesn't exist because your character doesn't really know much. Right. Like act the rest out. So how is your process?
I'm not going to lie. I wanted to fall into that void. I was like, can you just like take me to the 19th century? Can Maria partake in all of this insanity? And then I realized like, no, you're supposed to be sort of like the grounded sort of breath in the show of like, this is the romantic love story. And I think all great stories have that component. And I do appreciate that. I feel like there's an archetype of purity that Maria sort of, has to represent. And so I think that's very much needed because everything else is so convoluted and mysterious that, it is important to have the one like straight character that's in the 21st century, living mundane things as much as I want it, the whole mysterious thing. And the way I prep, I read the scripts obviously and many times, and then I just sort of take my scenes out and follow that, line through and, making sure what are the given circumstances and like what's happened before, what happens after. And that sort of informs what's happening in the present moment. So that's how I've done it with this show.
What can we kind of expect coming from Maria and Rhett? Because like I said, you guys are the anchor. I ship you guys. I love it. I love the relationship. So what can we expect coming up this season for the two of them? What are they going to have to go through? And then what are you kind of most excited about or a scene that you can kind of tease for the rest of the season to kind of get everyone excited?
I think we got to see we got a glimpse of how powerful their relationship could have been in the first season, but I think we got to see now behind closed doors, literally, what happens between them and seeing Maria sort of become Rhett's anchor. That's one thing. At the same time, grappling with her own wants and needs, which for me felt like the big secret that I had as an actor also doing it, because I'm like, I want this to work, but at a certain point, girl, get out. I know that's not a popular opinion. Someone's going to call me after this interview. Like, you cannot say that. I'm rooting for them. I want them to get out.
You're not allowed to break out, the two of you.
But at the same time, I'm like, I understand why she wants this to work, but they're like met with these forces and like real life circumstances and also supernatural circumstances that sort of inform the challenges that they have to navigate. And so that's sort of the big question, like, will love conquer all? And yeah, I was going to get into something deeper, but we don't have time for that. So
I was like, tell me.
no, I was thinking like, yes, I'm sort of in charge of telling that love story, but then I realized like there's so much love in the show. And this is like the traditional way of seeing love, you know, in the romantic sense, but there's love is the force that kind of moves the show, love and fear. And I think like those are the two biggest forces anyway, you know, for humans in general. But you see sort of the sacrifices that Royal has to make, you know, to keep his family together and rescue his family. And so I think that just untangling those mysteries for this season is something that fans should like look forward to watching.
Hope you guys enjoyed listening to the cast of Outer Range talk about what we could expect for its upcoming season. All 7 episodes of the genre-bending neo-western second season, starring Jeff Brolin, will be available on Prime Video starting May 16th, so make sure you head over there and check it out. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you're updated on all of our latest podcasts, and head over to our YouTube channel, hit subscribe so you're updated on all of our video content.